Today, we're going to look at one of the most powerful yet surprisingly simple tools out there for turning that messy guesswork into cold, hard facts. It's called the check sheet. So let me ask you something. Think about the last time you had a problem that just kept coming back at work. You know the one. How did you and your team try to solve it? Did you all get in a room and just kind of talk about what you thought was going on, relying on gut feelings and what you could remember? If you're nodding along, don't worry, you're not alone. But here's the thing, that approach is a total trap. It feels like you're making progress, but really, it's just organized guesswork. You end up chasing all the wrong things while the real cause of the problem just sits there, unsolved. It's this endless cycle of wasted time and effort. But what if I told you there's a way to break that cycle for good? And no, it's not some complicated new software or a pricey consultant. It's a beautifully simple tool that's all about capturing the facts. It's called a check sheet. And at its core, it's really just a simple, structured form. Its whole job is to help you collect data right there, in the moment, where the work is actually happening. It's all about turning those fuzzy, I think this is what's happening observations into clear, objective facts you can actually work with. And get this, 95%? This number really shows you the kind of power we're talking about. The legendary quality guru Karuo Shiwaka famously said that with a few basic tools like the check sheet, you can solve up to 95% of your everyday problems on the shop floor. 95%! I mean, that's just incredible for such a humble little tool. Okay, so that's the theory, but how does this actually play out in the real world? Because talk is one thing, but seeing the transformation, that's where the magic really happens. Let's look at some proof from a few different industries. And now, the numbers really do speak for themselves. In manufacturing, we've seen a 38% drop in rework. In services, a massive 70% decrease in customer complaints. And in healthcare, a 50% cut in medication errors. These aren't small changes, these are total game changers. So let's dig into the stories behind these stats. So first up, picture an automotive paint line. They were having a ton of issues with their paint finishes, but instead of guessing, they started using a simple defect-type check sheet. They just made a tally mark for every little flaw they saw. And almost immediately, a crystal-clear pattern showed up. Runs and sags were the overwhelming majority of their problems. So now, with that data, they knew exactly what to do. The guessing game was over. They focused their efforts on adjusting the spray gun equipment, and bam, a 38% reduction in rework, all because a few tally marks pointed them straight to the real problem. Okay, next up, a call center. They were being driven crazy by their systems constantly crashing, so they used a frequency check sheet and just logged every single outage hour by hour. And the data was just undeniable. The system almost always went down during this one specific time window, which just so happened to be when call volume was at its peak and when a server backup was scheduled to run. The fix was almost laughably simple. They just moved the server back up to a time when no one was on the phones. And the result? A whopping 70% drop in dropped calls. You see? No crazy expensive IT project needed, just a clear picture of what was actually happening. And for our last case, let's go to a hospital where, the stakes are about as high as they get. The nurses started using a simple tally sheet to track medication errors, and a really disturbing pattern popped up. The errors were spiking right during those chaotic 12-hour shift handovers. This data led to a change that literally saved lives. The hospital put in a mandatory verification checklist for every single shift change. And with that one simple procedure, they cut medication errors in half. It's just an incredible example of how simple data collection can empower the people on the front lines to solve huge problems.
So we've seen the proof. You're probably thinking, okay, I'm sold. How do I actually build one of these things for myself? Well, the key is just knowing what kind of question you're trying to answer and then picking the right tool for the job. There are basically 5 main types to know about. The defect type sheet, that's what the auto plant used, it helps you find your most common problem. A location sheet uses a map or a diagram to show you where things are going wrong. The frequency sheet, like in the call center, tracks when problems happen. A distribution sheet helps you collect measurements. And finally, the simple checklist, well, that just makes sure every single step in a process gets done right. Each one is just a different lens to look at your problem through. And building one is super straightforward. Just keep these 5 things in mind. First, have a clear goal. What question are you trying to answer? Second, make sure your categories are super clear and don't overlap. Third, keep the form simple. Easy to look at, easy to use. Fourth, and this one's huge, test it out with the people who will actually be using it. And fifth, listen to their feedback and make it even clearer. A good check sheet should feel helpful, not like extra paperwork. All right, we have covered the why and the how, so let's make this totally real. Let's talk about an action plan to get you started, and look at how this tool really fits into the bigger picture of making things better. So one key thing to remember is the check sheet doesn't live on an island. It's actually the starting point. It's the thing that gathers all the raw data, all the fuel for other powerful tools like Pareto charts and histograms. It gives you the hard evidence you need for things like root cause analysis, and it's a core part of big improvement systems like DMAIC from Six Sigma or the classic plan, do, check, act cycle. And you know the best part? You don't need any fancy technology to get started. Honestly, a simple piece of paper is perfect. It costs nothing, it's super easy, and most importantly, it helps build the habit of collecting data. Then, once that habit is locked in, you can look at digital tools that can add cool things like timestamps, photos, and real-time analysis across different locations. So here it is, your 90-day action plan. In the very first week, just pick one little problem that drives you crazy and sketch out a simple check sheet. For the next month or so, get your team on board and just start collecting the data. Then, in week 6, take a look at what you've got and find the biggest culprit. After that, you just implement one fix and keep using the sheet to prove that your change actually worked. It's simple, it's structured, and it gets results. So, that brings us right back to you. After all this, there's really only one question that matters. Now that you have this simple, powerful tool in your back pocket, think about your job, your team, your challenges. What's the very first problem you're going to stop guessing about and start solving with facts?